Hey, once again, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I have another short video for you. This is about the idea that problems are either building blocks or stumbling blocks. Everything that you encounter in your life can either take you to a greater place and you can use it as a building block that, it's a stepping stone, if you will. Every, job, whether it was a good job or a bad job, every job led you to a greater place. Every relationship that you were a part of. I mean, everything makes you who you are. And you can either build on it or you can stumble on it. There's that great truth in life that there are people who, they didn't live in the best of times. They didn't have any more money than you or I. They certainly didn't have any more time. If not, they probably had less time. We wake up a little earlier these days. We have alarm clocks. So yeah, there are a lot of different factors. But there are people who years ago, they did things that we can only dream of. I think of Christopher Reeve. So if you don't know the story, if I asked most people, who is Christopher Reeve? You either don't know or you say he's Superman, right? Everyone knows he's Superman from the 80s. And so Christopher Reeve, not only Superman in fake life, but also in real life. So the story goes, and you could read it in one of his books, Nothing is Impossible, and he wrote that because he believed nothing is impossible. Christopher Reeve had a really interesting life, being discovered as an actor, going through the Superman movies, all that stuff. He had a wife, he had kids. It seemed like the perfect life. And then all of a sudden he was invited down to an equestrian event, a horse riding event down in Virginia. And so he goes down to Virginia. Unexpectedly, he didn't know if he could make it, but he was able to make it. And the day before his race, he walks around the track and he figures out, does the horse need to move faster or slower here? Do I need to jump high or jump long? Do I need to turn quickly or is this a rounded turn? And he sets the vision. He knows exactly what the horse needs to do so that he could be the commander, he could be a great rider. So this is what Chris Reeve does, and then he bumps into a friend later on, they catch up a little bit, and that is the last thing he remembers. He wakes up in a hospital, and his wife Dana looks at him. Said, "Hey Chris, you're in Virginia Medical Center. You've been here for 3 days. Do you remember anything about what happened?" And he says, so she reminds him, well, you met with your buddy the night before, you took a walk around the track, and then you got up, and the horse was doing great as the race started and the event began. And you were making all the jumps, all the turns, everything was wonderful. And then all of a sudden, mid-jump, the horse saw a shadow, it saw something, a rabbit, it could have been anything, we're not really sure, we'll never know. But it jumped and it got scared, and so it flipped you back. But being the good rider that you are, you held onto the reins tight. The horse, though, flipped you over its head, and your hands got tangled in the reins, and so you couldn't break your fall, you broke your neck. The EMTs, the EMS, everybody came out, and they got breath back into you after about 3.5, 4 minutes, and we're very lucky because at 4.5 minutes you would have been brain dead. So we're so grateful to have you here with us, and we're great that you're here. You'll never walk again. I'm sorry. You'll never walk again. And this is the news that Chris Reeve heard 3 days after being unconscious in a near coma. And this is what he wakes up to. Now, your problems can either be building blocks or stumbling blocks. And at that point, he stumbled, he fell, and he fell emotionally, he fell intellectually. All of his life fell apart. And he said what, you and I would say on a bad day: just let me die. Just let me go, that's it. I don't want to be a burden to you. And Dana said the most important thing that any wife could have said to any husband, any man could have said to any woman, any son could have said to any father, any relationship, anyone important to you could have said. She said, "But Chris, you're still you, and I love you." And it's at that moment he jumped out of the bed, ripped open his shirt, flew away, because he's Superman. No, he didn't do that. But emotionally he did. He leapt up out of that paralysis. Because they said he has a C2, C3 vertebrae break, which means you will never be able to move anything below your neck. Nothing. Every doctor, every scientist, every nurse on the planet said it's physically impossible. And for 9 years, he fought against the impossible because he was not ready to take this as his stumbling block. And he fought. He became the face of paralysis. And when every doctor, every scientist, every nurse on the planet says you cannot move because you have a C2, C3 vertebrae break, it's physically, humanly impossible to move anything below. There's a video of him with Barbara Walters on 2020 Special. He moved his pinky when it was physically impossible. He did this. Underwater, he swayed his leg. It was physically impossible, though. And so he wrote a book called Nothing is Impossible. You should read it. It's a good read. Your problems can either be building blocks or stumbling blocks, and it all depends on how you look at it.